We are up in the mountains and we're looking at these pre-Incan structures, and it's totally crazy because the Incans were an ancient people, but to imagine that like they had ancient people like to themselves, right? These ruins are way pre-Incan and they're still used today. I mean, now it's more of a touristy destination, but if you can see, this is totally insane.
We went to Chinchero, which actually was a higher altitude than Oriente Temple.
The thing about altitude sickness is it just kind of makes you feel very tired, a little bit of a headache, exhaustion. Our guide Isaias had recommended that right now to walk very slowly. I did chew some coca leaves, probably not as much as I should have. Who knows if that helped or not, I don't know. It's the same feeling as kind of like anxiety when you're anxious and it kind of feels like something is pressed on your chest. It's kind of gross now. Bella almost threw up.
The cool thing about Chinchero, I thought, were the terraces. We could see these ladies laying out all these potatoes to dry. It's pretty incredible that after hundreds of years they still use the terraces for stuff like that, like drying the potatoes. There are like 3,000 different types of potatoes in Peru. It's pretty impressive. So after the ruins, we actually walked to back to the area where they had this church and this plaza, where there was a mass being celebrated in Quechua. It was fascinating. We were watching this mass, which is a Catholic ritual, being celebrated in a church that is a colonial style church from the Spaniards over Inca ruins. It was like this ridiculous irony, almost this paradox, and sort of like this fusion was like representing pretty much what we thought the Peruvian culture actually is like.
Visiting the Chinchero market was something that was very high on my list of things that I wanted to do in the Sacred Valley. For me personally, I really wanted to see all the beautiful textiles. Peru is known for textiles, so I was very excited to go to Chinchero and see this beautiful marketplace. One of the places that Isaias took us to while we were in Chinchero was a community of weavers. And this community of weavers is supported by a non-governmental organization whose goal is to help people preserve their way of life. So preserve the traditions of weaving and the patterns and the ways that you dye the wool and raise the animals to make the wool. And so at this weavers enclave there's many women who are there and they're doing different weaving tasks in the courtyard. And they also are willing to give you a tour. The woman who gave us the tour was very nice and her English was excellent. She followed a script telling us about how they card the wool and how they spin the wool. And then she took us over to a different section of the courtyard where she showed us how they dyed the wool. So she had little different pots of herbs and minerals, and she was telling us about them, how this particular herb was used to create the oranges or the reds, and how you added different minerals to the red to make it more orange or more red. And then she showed us the indigo, which was just this little cube, probably about the same size as a sugar cube, and she was telling us how hard it was to find the indigo. The other interesting thing she also said was that in order for the indigo to set into the yard, it requires urine. Human urine. Pee.
On the way to Pisac, we stopped at this amazing animal sanctuary shelter place And what they did was they would rescue traditionally like wild animals from the black market or from like circuses or just people who had them. So a lot of them are like have been so mistreated and like declawed, or their wings have been clipped, that they can't actually return them to the wild, so they hold on to them here. So there was this llama that was really like docile, and it was just kind of chilling. And so like they were like, you can like hug the llama, you can go take a picture with the llama. So I like hugged the llama and I took like 25 selfies with the llama, and it was super great.
So at the animal shelter, I had my first close encounter with an animal. The beautiful condors that we observed, they were really big, they were huge. I think the wingspan was like about 6 feet or something like that, so they were kind of impressive. And they're like vultures, right? They eat like crab, literally dead animals and stuff. But anyway, at one point, I turn around and I'm about to leave the area where they are confined, and I feel this tugging, nipping. The damn condor was like pulling at my ass or something. After we had the experience in Ollantaytambo, going to Pisac was very interesting. Pisac is about 80 kilometers from Ollantaytambo, and it's on the other side of the Sacred Valley. It's the other extreme.
We're grabbing a quick snack of empanadas with cheese and onion inside, and then we're gonna go hike the ruins, which I'm excited about the ruins, and I'm super not excited about the hike. And there's a lady with a goat here, and I'm freaking out.
One of the interesting things about Pisac ruins is that many of the terraces are built along a very curvy line, whereas other ruins that we visited in the Sacred Valley, they were almost always built at right angles. Isaias shared with us some of the ideas that archaeologists have about why these are curved. And some people say, very conceptually, oh, maybe these represent fertility, or maybe they represent the lines of a woman's curves. But what he did was he showed us how the river below was also a very windy river, and he suggested that perhaps these terraces are that curvy because originally they followed the line of the river.
We actually had to hike up for several hours. It's a very steep climb through the rocks, and you get to different sections of this Inca ruin area. I think it was almost as impressive as Machu Picchu just because of the way it was spread out. It was extremely steep and very dangerous. It was there were chasms and drops every step of the way. At some point I got stuck inside of a tunnel because of my tripod. My tripod was too tall, and the passage was very narrow. Keep going.
Heather and my dad are emerging from the tunnel.
Oh, he's stuck.
My dad is stuck. I'm in a much better mood after that nearly death experience in the tunnel.
I'm sure you are.
Mostly because you got stuck and it was funny. When I was asking my mom for examples of what the Inca Trail was like, she said it was kind of like hiking the ruins in Pisac, but just like the whole way is like that. There's these teeny little ledges that you have to like hold on to the rock like a mountain goat and like walk on, and there's stairs and there's tunnels and windy edges of cliffs. It was beautiful. I was terrified. One of the parts that we went to, like there was still a working water duct
To divert the water.
and I actually like kept my hands under there for like 2 hours. Yeah, it goes underground and irrigates the terraces.
Way up.
Isaias was our guide for all of Peru. Born and raised in Peru, spoke English and Spanish fluently with a little bit of Quechua. Extremely patient with us when we were hiking because we're not really outdoorsy people, and he was great. And he was so like strong too. Like he was like an elderly, I guess, but I thought he was like 45 years old.
He was just very matter of fact, and any questions we had, he had an answer for us. And he would tell us stories, but then he would let us ask more questions so that he could tell us more information. He was not overbearing at all.
It wasn't like a typical tour guide that took you to the place and had a specific thing to say. It was very natural and he was very personal. Isaias was amazing. I loved him, and I don't think our Peru trip would have been the same without him.
Isaias was the man. He was absolutely amazing.
He would take us to his favorite restaurants, and they were all fabulous. I liked him a lot.
So I definitely recommend anybody going to Peru to hire Isaias. I'm sure you won't find anybody as good as he was.
My dad got stuck in a cave because of his camera that's apparently his mistress. But it's also our moneymaker. You're gonna have to cut that part.
Keep going.